If you're in the mood for an hour or more of gentle watercolor painting with me by your side, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to complete in real time 7 little paintings, which I hope you'll enjoy and which are all easy enough for you to do in half an hour or so. Ideal for the daily challenge or just as a warm-up before you work on a bigger painting. So grab a cuppa and your paints and let's get started, slowly. Hi everyone, here I am. Just starting off on my first piece of practice work for the first day of the Moments of May challenge, a Wildflower Patch. And I did a while ago a painting which was basically wildflowers in a vase that, had been collected and just stuck in a vase any old how. And so I did a sketch. This was a very quick piece of work, but you've probably seen the video if you've watched a lot of our videos. It's one called How to Paint Easy Watercolor Flowers. And it's just a kind of bit of fun. And the way I did it, I did a quick sketch like that with ink. And the reason I'm doing this and showing you is because I want to practice. I will do another one in a minute on a piece of watercolor paper, but this is my practice. So we'll start with the lightest color, which is going to be yellow. So we'll just spatter yellow. And as I said, I'm just trying this out because I haven't done it for a long time. So we'll spatter yellow. Get some bigger spatters. The more water you use in your paint, the bigger the spatters. So we'll start like that. Then we'll go to orange and go over the top. This is fun. Then we go to pink. I'm using a rigger here. This is a size, I don't know, about size 4. I've got a whole bunch of these Craftmo brushes which don't have any sizes on them, which is not particularly helpful. But okay, so there's that, and then now perhaps we'll go to blue, and some of those we'll mix with the yellow to make green. I'm working in a Tamsin sketchbook. It's called Paint On, I think. It's smooth paper that you can use either for watercolor or for pencil or pen work. Now I'm picking up some green. I think this is olive green from the Kuretake set. And I'll drop a bit of that in there. And then I'm going to try not to make them too heavy. I'll just put some stems and leaves, which is a little bit different from the original. So I won't do much of that. And then a little bit of blue for the water in the vase, which is a clear glass. So leave that, I don't like that bit. Tissue. Emergency board 10. Remember that? Emergency board 10. English people will, if they're my age. Right, and then we'll just put a little bit of colour in the table below, and we'll leave it like that. And so that's my practice painting for the wildflower garden. So now I have some ideas. So we'll pop that a little bit up. I don't know why I started at the back of that book, but I did. It's got rather tight binding. I'll put a link to that book in the description below. Right, okay, so now moving on to today's project, which is similar, is going to be, like I said, we've got the challenge sheet here, which says May 2025, can't believe it, Daily Watercolor Challenge, Moments of May. Number 1, May 1st, that was yesterday. So if you haven't yet done that, don't worry, you can do it now. Wildflower Patch, so we're going to do that. Then I'm going to, for this video, I'm going to do the first 7. Yes, I am. So we'll get the first week out of the way. So I will need a quiet cup of tea after I've done that. So here we are, this is smooth, this is hot press, and I'm going to, am I going to put an edge around it? I think I might, just for the heck of it. Just quickly, a very narrow edge in washi tape. Washi tape comes in different widths, and I quite like the narrow ones because I often use pieces of paper which are not as big as others. And this will give just a very narrow white edge around the painting. If by any remote chance it turns out to be vaguely frameable, for example, there you are. So I think it's a good idea to start with the yellows, just because they're the lightest colour. And my idea was to literally cover the whole page with splashes of paint, and I could start off, in fact, by using a toothbrush. That would get some spatter on there pretty quick. So maybe I'll do that. That's one of the benefits of this Kuretake set, is that the pans of paint are big. So you can get a paintbrush, a big paintbrush or a toothbrush. You can get in there. So let's cover most of the paper with some yellow background. As soon as you start, you immediately, I'm going to move that because it's casting shadow. As soon as you, now that is casting shadow too. As soon as you start, your direction is indicated, and you may have had an idea in mind, but the minute you actually put paint, sorry about the shaking, that's because our studio is in construction at the moment. Okay, what I was going to try and say, pick that up, let's save with the shaking. As soon as you start, you'll begin to get your direction, which don't try to change it. If this is what happens, this is what happens. And I've got some lovely big splodges. Obviously, we can enlarge those and make them into big flowers, so this is perfect. All right, so this is paint I had already mixed up for something else. I'm just going to pick it up and use it up. You use a paintbrush. This one came free. I think it was on a plane. I was going to say, use a toothbrush. You can get some nice big splashes like that. Now I'm going to switch back to my rigger and do some, I think I might pick up some purple or something like that. I've got purple down here. I've got window open at the moment, which is blowing things around a bit. So this purple, I'm hoping, is going to provide me with some nice little purple flowers as a kind of contrast to the orange. I'm standing up to do this because it's easier, I think, to get the angle for tapping your brush. And there's no need to be precious or particularly finicky about how you do these dots. The size of them will be completely controlled by how much water you're using and how hard you tap. But you don't need to use anything else. You don't even need to use a second hand. You just hold it and tap it. Try to leave a little bit of extra light near the top because that's where the sun is coming in, so you've got that kind of, you know. And now we're going to turn to blue, and this is ultramarine. You can use any blue. Do something like that in a line. If it happens to happen, you could say, ah, that's obviously a delphinium, right? So, and maybe we can make one happen over here. I don't know if delphiniums count as wildflowers, but you can pretend, can't you? So it accidentally got itself into the wildflowers. So we'll put a few more blue there, and then I think I've probably got enough blue. And what I'm going to do with these big blobs here, I'm going to pick up probably some red, maybe. Should we go to the reds and try to enlarge them a bit? And if that's too much water, if it is, you can pick it up using a brush. Just vacuum it up. So I'm going to vacuum up most of that. And that one's okay, I think, but it still needs a bit of vacuuming. And then, I'm going to sit down for a sec and try to enlarge some of these with a little bit more delicacy. Some of these reds. Just drop some paint into the blobs. Make them, that one's a bit fat, isn't it? Bit vacuuming going on here. If anyone doesn't know what vacuum is, what I mean by vacuuming, just put a question in the comments below and I'll explain it. But it's to do with something called, what's it called? See, the thing is, that's it, you see. I sometimes can't remember the words. A thirsty brush, yeah. Now, the reason why I'm being a bit careful with the red is that it's easy for it to overwhelm everything. So I'm just putting in red blob at a time. And I'm thinking while I'm doing this, I'm considering, am I going to dry this before I come in with the green? Because I'm going to put green leaves in, quite a lot of them. Or am I going to risk it? Yeah, it's a tricky one. I might do a few green bits down the bottom. Let's swap to pink. And do some quite nice big pink ones where I've got space. So try to remember not to make them all the same size. Really easy to go wrong there. Okay, so let's pick up a little bit of green and start doing some stems coming up and see how that goes while they're still wet. I'm in, for future reference, I'm in Cairo at the moment, and the atmosphere here obviously is very dry since it's a desert. And so things dry quite quickly. And I haven't had to actually use the hairdryer very much at all. I'm quite often I can complete a painting in one go, because it's drying quite quickly enough to be able to just keep going. Now, with these stems and things, I'm looking at a photo of a picture of what I'm trying to create here, and I can see in this picture there's a large number of grasses and stems all over the whole entire page, behind all of the flowers. But you don't necessarily want to do that. That would depend on you and your style, how you feel you want to make this painting go. That's not the colour I want. I want this one, I think. Is it? Or is it that one? Doesn't matter. Whoops. It's a bit dark, but a few dark ones is good. I think I'm going to switch to a thinner brush because I think a smaller, if I've got one, a smaller rigger would probably work. Is that smaller? I think it might be longer. This could take a while, you know. This is, yeah, that's thinner, so that's good. So that's a tip. There we are. You know, you've got your thicker stems, thicker grasses, darker ones and everything in the foreground. And then as you go back, you're going to start to get thinner. Great practice for doing calligraphic marks with your rigger brush. The funny thing about, I was just saying about the humidity here being so low, and it seems to me, and I don't know if this is possible, but it seems to me that the colours when they dry are drying lighter than they do in France, and that doesn't make any sense, but it does seem like it. Because I've always said there's no fade back with Kuretake. When it dries in France, it seems as if the colours really barely fade when they dry, which is something I thought was really beneficial, but I've noticed here. And it must be, if it's happening and it's not my imagination, it could be the formaldehyde making me perceive things differently, who knows. But yeah, has anyone noticed that at all? Anyone who lives in a dry climate? Right, well, I think that actually doesn't look too bad, and I think I'm going to leave that to dry. There we are, that is my Wildflower Patch, and I could go in later when I've got a little bit more time and make some of these ones in the front here a little bit more textured and so on. But for the purposes of the demonstration for today, for the challenge, I think we can leave it at that, and I shall go on to the next one, which is a quiet cup of tea, and I might actually go and make myself one. So I'm going to put this aside and I shall be back shortly. Okay, so I've had my cup of tea. It was in a mug. I'm not going to paint that mug. I'm going to do something else. Just wanted to show you this wildflower patch, which has now dried, and I'm quite happy with that. I like the way the yellow in the background there that we put on at first with the toothbrush has kind of given a sun-kissed air to it. And I think I probably will maybe add a little bit more pink to these ones in the front there, which I think are a little bit too weak for the front, but they still want to be pink, not red. And here, just so you can see what happened when this one dried, this is the, what I call it, the trial, the sort of warm-up for that painting, which has dried quite pale, but it's quite pretty. So I want altogether, sorry about the noise in the background, there's a lot of wind blowing in the apartment at the moment. Wouldn't exactly say that was a roaring success, but at least it got me started. And so now the next thing I'm going to do is a Matisse style, Matisse style cup. I'm going to do it on a piece of Academy watercolor paper, which is the same as Meaden, but this is hot press again. I'm going to use hot press, and I'm going to model this on very, very loosely on a painting that he did. I believe he did it. It's not AI generated, I don't think. But it's going to be very loosely modelled on that, indeed. You'll probably find that painting online, but you probably won't be able to recognise it because mine is going to be inevitably completely different. I'm looking for a pencil, can't find one. There's always something, isn't there? No doubt somebody will complain that I'm littering too much, but never mind. Right, let's do first of all our sketch in here of a cup, and all of these clever things are very clever, aren't they? Right, so we'll do an ellipse, and I'm not trying to focus on perspective at all because he didn't. And we'll just do a vague cup shape like that, and a something resembling. You realise how little you look at the things that you see daily when you start to paint them or draw them from memory, and you think, how does that work? I don't know. Anyway, don't care. And the saucer can come round like this. Okay, and then it's got tea inside it, and it could have a pattern on it like that, couldn't it? And then you could have sort of leaf pattern. And in fact, you could have a sprig of mint or something like that actually sitting on the saucer. How about that for an idea? Isn't that? It's different, isn't it? We could do that, and we could have another one over here. Okay, and in the background, we could have, as Monsieur Matisse had, we could have some lovely, big Japanese style. I wonder if he must have been thinking Japanese tea ceremony or something when he painted this one. So we'll just have some really blooming blooms here. And you know what I'm going to do? I've changed my mind about, I was going to do this separately on another piece of paper, but I'm not now. I'm just going to colour this one in. Okay, so I'll find myself a relatively smallish brush. This is about a size 7. So we'll take that, and I'll start with putting in some pink for these flowers up here, and we'll drop strong pink in the middle because this is the way that we paint. Isn't it? We don't paint like him, but we use his ideas. We steal people's ideas. Yes. And this one's going to be bigger. Okay, and we'll put some, because if you go into the paint again and you pick it up nice and thick with less water, it'll spread out like that and give you a nice effect. Over this one here, we'll have some nice dark red petals. And when I've done that, I'll come in with some green. Somebody said in the comments yesterday, I don't like the way Matisse paints. That's fine. I'm not sure I do, but I respect what he did because he changed the world of art. He changed what people did, or was part of a movement which changed what the world did. And I didn't realize until I started reading about him and watching a video about him and his life, how much he had influenced the way modern painters these days are painting. I had been puzzling over that for a long time and thinking, why have we got this deconstructed look? Why have we got this, I don't care about perspective, which is obviously coming through the art colleges and schools. And I just didn't understand. But now I am beginning to understand a little bit. Okay, so let's put our tea in here. Not worrying about perspective at all. And I think, I should have put behind, I should have put a line for a table. So we'll do a nice curved line for a table there. And I think I'll paint the colour of the table. And as I said, I'm following this painting by Matisse, and he did a very strongly coloured yellow table. So I'll do that, same as what he done. And the other side here. And these Kuretake paints really lend themselves to this style of painting too. I wouldn't have had the courage to do this with Winsor & Newton. I would have felt I was wasting paint, you know. But this way, you don't. Now, his teacup has a nice blue line. I don't know if my hand is steady enough. I was watching Liesel's Artistic Studio this morning and watching her paint a black line around a butterfly. And I'm like, oh my God. How can she do that? And she then said, well, this does admittedly take a steady hand to do. So if you feel you need to use a pen, don't hesitate. I won't tell. Just go ahead. No one will ever know. And I thought, yes, well, thank you for that, because I'm certain that I couldn't do a straight line like that. In fact, I'm watching her and thinking, am I seeing AI intervention here? I don't know. I shouldn't think so. I don't think she would do that. But anyway, yeah, that's a recent video. I think she put it up yesterday. It's a white butterfly and a white flower. It's quite interesting. You should perhaps go and have a look. I think she's very good. She's a very good artist. I don't want to sound patronising. Does that sound patronising? I don't mean it to sound patronising. But yeah, she's very good. I quite like to watch her. So here we go. I'm going to put in some nice bright green leaves here. This is supposed to be a sprig of mint or something like it. So we put some light green in first. Here in Egypt, when you order your vegetables from the grocers, greengrocers, they deliver it. Quite often they'll chuck in a few bunches of fresh mint. And so all you have to do is just you put it on the roof or on the balcony or whatever, and let it dry, and then crumble it and put it in a box, and you've got dried mint for your tea. It's quite funny. And they just, I don't know where they grow it, but they just throw it in, seemingly. Sometimes you can't rely on it, but then you can't rely on anything here. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, you're not surprised. Don't be surprised. Okay, so we'll do the other one as well. Yeah, so a slightly yellowy green for the leaves. Over here we're doing a bit bigger on that side. Make them appear a bit closer. I can't avoid perspective. Doesn't matter how hard I try. I always want to work like that, but you know, what is it they say about dogs and tricks and things? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's true. You can sometimes get somewhere near, but anyway. So then what he did, he had a bit more of his blue, and I think he had a bit of something a bit like this. And he was putting a blue design. Nothing wrong with blue flowers. A blue design on there. And let's put a bit of a blue edge here. He didn't have that, but he had a line around here, the bottom of the cup. It's so liberating when you don't have to worry about straight lines. You just go ahead and paint whatever comes out of the end of your brush. And I'm going to put some darker blue in here. What's this? Yeah, that'll do. Some darker blue. That's actually purple. That's okay. In there. And I'm going to basically almost nearly there. I'm going to call that done in a second. I'm going to put a little bit of greenery in the background up here, because if there's one thing I do believe, even though you might not want to paint every single leaf that's in the background, you do need to connect the painting somehow to what's behind it. Okay, and I'm going to leave the rest of the cup white, but I will put a little bit of pink flowers down here. You can make up your own mind what they're meant to be and where they're meant to come from and so on, but we'll just put those in there to reflect the ones that are upstairs, up there. So there we are, that's that. I think my tea is sitting at a rather strange angle, but never mind. And that's a quiet cup of tea for the 2nd of May, which I think is today. So there we are, we'll put that one aside and start thinking about the next one. Okay, so we're going on to number 3 now, but before I start on the bird at rest, this is painting which my daughter Tamsin did yesterday, and following on from yesterday's video, actually, where I painted, I haven't got it here handy, but we painted something very similar to this. And she said to me this morning, I don't know quite how to finish this. So we were wondering whether people out there would be interested in the comments below, making any suggestions that you feel might be helpful in taking this painting to its conclusion. And so we'd be very happy if you would share some of your thoughts with us, because I think it's lovely and I think it is very, very nearly finished. And I know what I would do to it, but I don't know whether I would improve it, to be quite honest. So, yeah, any thoughts? Pop them in the comments below. And now I'm going to go back to my little sketchbook. This is, as I said, this one's called Paint On. You can just see that. And on the back it has Clairefontaine, which means it's made by Tamsin. And it's quite nice to paint in, actually. So I think I might, and I've started at the back because, well, why not? So let's go on to the next page, and I'll paint here the little bird, the bird resting. And I will need a pencil or a pen. Let's go with a pen. Yeah, let's go with a pen, and we'll first of all draw the outline. And this is, again, supposedly inspired by Matisse. So this bird is perhaps the way Matisse might paint it. And we're going to keep it really, really simple. This little bird is resting on his or her nest. So just outline it with pen, and then we'll go over it with ink, and I won't do too much in the way of outlining the nest, but the nest is underneath like this. We had a blackbird actually, which you could almost paint this colour, building a nest in the hedge outside our apartment here downstairs. So leave it like that, and we will put in afterwards some lines over where I've done these lines. Okay, so the little bird is in the nest. And he is a little bird, or she. I'm going to do her in blue. But first of all, what shall we do? Let's take some space, and I can put some blue. There we are. This is ultramarine. So let's just put ultramarine over the entire bird. Do it all one colour to start with, I think. And then, whoops, wrong one. Drop some darker areas in. Make the tail nice and dark. It's going to be a very quick one, this. And we'll go for a yellow beak. First of all, put lemon yellow, and then I'll pick up some orangey yellow to go over the top. And then we will pick up some brown. And just give her a nice brown nest, twiggy. And some darker brown. I think this is a darker brown colour. And then let's have a little bit of darker blue. Might add a little bit of this colour, maybe a bit of black. I'm not sure if this is black or purple. I think it's black, yeah. A little bit of black to make that blue darker. And I'm going to try it's quite hard to do fine lines with watercolour. We'll try that, and then try up here too. It really is difficult, and some of us will never really quite master that. just smooth that out a bit there. Bring that around here a bit. And I don't want to make it any more complicated than that. Maybe a little bit more dark underneath here. Perhaps again a bit more black. But keep it with brown. That's it. And I'm going to go back just a little bit of blue here. And a black eye. Let me just draw that line in there. And I think that will probably do. So there we are, a little bird at rest. So that's number 3. That's for tomorrow. Okay, we're up to day number 4 now, and this is fresh green veggies. And I've got some greens here, I've got some greens here, and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to very loosely paint some vegetable shapes. And I'm just going to wet in some shapes, and then just, I don't know what these are, but they could be anything really. But we'll make this into a sort of pattern. It looks roughly like a vegetable. I don't know what that might be. Let's say it's something that grows in a foreign land. And this is an interesting one. Needs more yellow. This is like fern, and I don't know what you'd call this, but it's quite nice to paint. I think it's yeah, actually, come to think of it, this is fiddlehead fern, and you can indeed eat it. We painted it a little while ago, didn't we, fiddleheads? I don't know if you remember. And I found out that you can eat them. They're just things that grow. So there we are, that's a fiddlehead. And then I think I'll do some chives. Make them yellowish, I think. Oh, no, wait a minute, are they yellowish or are they bluish? I don't know. And chives have kind of purple flowers, don't they? So they have like that. So we'll do that. A few more of them down here. Perhaps we'll add a little bit of black to that green. And then we could have, what else can we have in the way of vegetables that are green? We could have broccoli. What about broccoli? We could have lots of things like this. That's some broccoli. And What else do we have that's green? Cabbage, but that's very boring, isn't it, really? I think that'll probably do. Maybe we'll just paint a few sage leaves, because it's much easier to think of leaves. So there we are. We have done that. That is number 4, fresh green vegetables. Only got 3 more to do. And then that's my week done. Okay, so we have chives, fiddlehead ferns, broccoli, something, I'm not sure what that is, some kind of turnip or something, and some sage. Okay. Hold that up so we can see it. And there's a little bird. Okay, so tomorrow, that is to say the 5th day, sunlight through leaves. Okay, we're up to number 5 now, and I'm going to make a cup of tea in a minute because number 6 is a favourite mug. But number 5 is sunlight through the leaves. So what I'm going to do first of all, before I wander off to make my tea, which I think I need, is I'm going to use these Kuretake colours in a slightly more opaque way. You know, it comes back to that old argument again about, are they watercolour, are they gouache? Yes, they are watercolour, but you can use them quite thickly. They don't protest as much as traditional Western watercolours do when you use them thickly. So you can go into the background like this with the 3 lemons and 3 yellows that we've got here, which are a kind of warm cadmium yellow, which is this one, a lemon yellow, which is that one, and then one in the middle. An ordinary cadmium, I think. So I'm just going to do the background like that. Then I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to paint some leaves in green on top of there, because this is supposed to be sunlight through leaves. So we will leave that to dry, and I'll clean my palette, make a cup of tea, and come back. So I'm going to clean this off. I don't believe in leaving my palette dirty completely all the time because the colours tend to get a little bit polluted with one another. So we'll give that a wash. Okay, that's nice and dry now, so I'm going to start painting my sunlight through leaves. This, of course, is the sunlight. And so what we need is some light green, I think, probably. So I'll just pick up some of this, and we'll use it reasonably thin to start with. And I think I'm going to do something which I have done many times before, which is to draw a stem and then to pop in some leaves. This, I know, is far from being an original way to start because we've done this before, but I think it's actually the first time I've ever painted leaves on top of yellow. So I'm going to darken down this green a little bit, use a bit of black in there too, and we'll just add some shadow at the bottom where they join onto the stem. Let's put a bit more in here as we build it up. Buttercup. Okay, and I think we will find some orange, orangey yellow, a bit of orange mixed with the yellow, and I'm just going to dilute that down a bit, and I'm going to put some more leaves in orange behind here. And I think let's add a bit of reddish brown to that. Could use that as something that's going to give us some veins. Add a few more down here, perhaps. Up here. So we're just going to sort of build it up a little bit, like I said. Let's go to the reddish brown again. Remembering that the inspiration was sunlight through leaves, so that's what we're trying to do. And I think something that I often do with a thing like this is to come in with some dark, really dark, say, for example, we could put berries in a dark brown here and there. And you could, if you wanted to, well, there's several things that come to mind. You could put in some, what I call empty leaves, so just the outlines. That's quite nice, and they could be sitting a little bit behind the ones you've already done. That you can do. And basically just filling up the space, really. But because they're kind of transparent, you sort of think, oh yes, the sunlight's coming through them. So then I'm going to add a few veins into some of these. And so these ones want to be green. And there we are, that'll do. I'll do for that. I have 1 or 2 green berries as well. Okay, so that's sunlight through the leaves. Let's have a look at that a bit closer and give that a try. I think that's turned out quite well, actually. Quite like that. It's quite nice and bright. So the next one is a favourite mug. Just need to let this dry and I'll be back with a mug. Okay, right, number 6, a favourite mug. Well, I'm going to just draw a mug shape, roughly, and a handle. Doesn't have to be 100%. And I'm going to decorate it on front. And just as I was searching through my reference materials, came across a picture of a mug with a cat on it, so I thought I'd do that. Because we had some good news about our cats, because you know that we're in Egypt and we've had to leave our animals and we haven't seen our little Ginger or our little Siamese that live in the studio for days, but last night, finally, they turned up on our camera, so that was good. And so let's put a cat on a table with a cushion. I'm just drawing this really quickly, and a bit like the cat that I put in the picture of Egyptian houses the other day. We'll have this one sitting here. Profile of a cat. To concentrate, you know. If we're going to get it anywhere near right, we might have to do some alterations to get it better, make it better. Not quite right there. Pause. I'm going to make that into a kind of silhouette. And in the background here, we'll have some leaves. And up here, perhaps some leaves as well. Okay, let's give that a go. Start by painting El Pussycat in black, make him a silhouette. Okay, we'll call that a cat. And then we want some green. Any old green will do. And we'll just paint some leaves up here. Remember, these are just daily challenges to warm up with. You don't have to, you know, spend all day doing it. I put the cushion there like that, and then make some kind of a bench for him to sit on. Okay, and then, as we said before, we always need to have some kind of a background. So we probably need something kind of beige-ish. And some of the colours that I use quite a lot from the Kuretake 48 set are missing from this set, so I have to make them up, in other words, mix them myself, which is, that's okay, but I do miss them. You know, the, I can't remember what they're called offhand, but they're the ones at the top on the right-hand side, sort of skin tone kind of colours. Okay, so then we'll have a little bit of a green tablecloth underneath. Maybe we'll give it a nice dark green handle. And a bit more dark green at the top here around the edge, and maybe at the bottom. Okay, and maybe a few bits of darker green in our leaves, which just, it looks a bit like one of our cats sitting in our plants, and they like to eat them, especially spider plants, which is a terrible thing to do because I think they're poisonous, aren't they? And I'm going to grab a gold pen and just put some stars down here on the tablecloth. Okay, and yeah, I think that's about it. Perhaps we put a few bits of gold on the mug, and perhaps a bit up there because he's sitting on a nice gold upholstered thingy. Right then, and do I need to put some coffee in the mug? Probably. See if we can find something that looks vaguely drinkable. There we go. Okay then, so that's that. Let's have a slightly closer look at that. Still wet. My favourite mug with a cat on it. Right then, so one more to do, raindrops on leaves. More leaves? Oh no, not more leaves. Okay, number 7, that's for May the 7th, is going to be raindrops on leaves. We've had quite a few leaves and we're going to have some more. I'm going to paint a background again, and this time it's not going to be yellow. It's going to be a different colour. What colour shall I make it? What colour shall I make the leaves? So there's a wet background, and we're going to pick up some, I think I'm going to do it in pale green, this kind of turquoisey colour. I don't know why not. Don't know why. Why should I? Why shouldn't I? And I'm going to mix it with this blue. I'm a bit of a problem keeping my paper flat at the moment. I don't seem to be able to find a paper clip. Must have left it behind. Not paper clip, what do you call them? Tamsin? The things that hold things together. Can't remember what they're called. Anyway, pardon? Bulldog clip. That's it. Right, there we are. There's a nice soft background, and all we have to do now is wait for it to dry. And that won't take very long here. I won't bother with the hair dry, I'll just wait for it to dry. And then I'm going to put a little bit of a branch and some leaves and make an attempt to do something that remotely looks like a raindrop, but I'm not going to hold out too much hope on that because that's tricky. And then next week, the beginning of the week on the 8th, we'll be putting up the next 7, I hope, all being well. Can never be absolutely sure, so we'll say, God willing, so to speak. Garden gate, dandelion wishes, that's kind of blowing in a dandelion seed head, making a wish. Spring shoes, a buzz of bees, window view, that's a good one for Matisse. He had a nice view through a window. Bud to bloom and bowl of fruit, is that right? And feather found. So that's next week. But for now, we're going to be doing these leaves. So I'll be back in a sec when they're dry. It's dry. Okay, I'm kind of hoping that this is actually dry. And I'm going to start painting in the leaves. I'm just using sap green. I think it's got a little bit of brown mixed in with it, so it's a nice soft green. I'm not going to mess around making lots of different colours, but I will add a little bit more green, a little bit more yellow. As we go along. And I'm doing, on this particular one, I decided I would just paint the leaves first, and mostly painting from the tip back, because that's more effective, but it's a little bit more tricky to start from the back end, the bottom, the tip, the point, or whatever. So yeah, that was the idea. I would paint the leaves first in one basic green colour, and then go to black and bring in a nice, strong, twiggy thing, and hope that we've got enough running going on, which seems to be working. Yeah, that's fine. So now we need to let that dry, and we'll see what we can do about yes, drops of water Yeah, so I will actually put a little bit more colour on there, down one side of each of these leaves. And if I can find a pen that actually works in white, we might be able to do something. Not sure if that's going to be any good. We could try white paint. This is white gouache. And what I'm trying to do, this is dry, we'll try it with white gouache and black, and I'll put the white gouache in first, and the idea is that it's a drop of water hanging from a leaf, right? And it's light on one side and dark on the other side, and I don't know if it's going to work. And maybe one on the leaf. Like I say, don't know if it's going to work. Probably won't. And then for the one here, it needs some shadow underneath. I don't think that one worked. I'll take that off. Come back to that later and try and do it again. This one's okay. I'm going to use a pen to do my shadow up here. Okay, and maybe we'll try one more over here. Okay, not one of my most successful pieces of work, I don't think, but I'm not going to worry about it because I can do it again. And I think it's very important to think that way. You can say to yourself, okay, I learned something about not being able to paint water droplets. And so I'm not going to worry myself about that. I'll just put in some veins, that I can do. And this is number 7. We've done 7 little paintings today. You will be seeing those tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow is Saturday. And hopefully you'll enjoy watching and sympathising with me when things went wrong, but we don't really mind. This is a nice little book. I quite like working in here. I think I'm going to use it for the whole challenge. Could put a little bit of spatter on there. So there we go. We have some leaves with not very effective water droplets, but hey. And going back, we have cat on a mug, sunlight through the leaves, resting bird, green veggies, cup of tea, and first one that we did was a patch of wildflowers. So I'm going to let you go. Don't forget, if you are a member, you will have had all the information you need about Moments of May challenge. And if you aren't a member, please do consider either joining us on Patreon for a very small sum of money each month. You get lots of extra perks, or else joining for the same perks here on YouTube. And I'll let you go now, and I will see you again soon. So I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.